Good evening, everyone. I'm Grant Cunningham, and welcome to Training Talk, right here on Personal Defense Network. This is the show where we talk about you, about your life, and how to protect it. In the next hour, we're going to explore ways that you can prepare and equip yourself to face that worst-case scenario and keep you and your family safe. Now, we don't do politics or religion on this show, and you're not going to hear fringe commentary or crazy conspiracy theories. Just reliable information that you can use right now. It's the reasonable and responsible approach to personal defense and personal safety, and I hope that you'll find it useful. Now, if you enjoy what we're doing here, would you do me a favor? Would you share this with your friends and your family and your coworkers and your neighbors? I'm sure that I know I'd appreciate it, and I'm sure they'll appreciate that you thought enough of them and about their own safety to share this information with them. So if you would, please do so, on Twitter and Facebook and heck, just walk across the street, talk to your neighbors. Thank you. I do appreciate that. Tonight we've got an interesting show. We're going to be joined here fairly soon by Rob Pincus, the managing director here at Personal Defense Network, and we're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk about a new project here at Personal Defense Network, but we're also going to talk a little bit about protecting yourself in the event of a mass killer or a spree killer. And that brings me right to the topic that I really wanted to address first thing tonight and get this out of the way. Of course, this has been a tough week for everybody in the defensive training world. Everybody knows about the attacks on the nightclub down in Orlando, with 49 people killed and 50 some odd, the last count, injured. And I think I speak for all of the PDN staff when I extend my own personal sympathies to the family and friends of everybody that was killed and injured in that horrific attack. Frankly, I have very little to say about how we can prevent these things. I don't have the answers at how to prevent these kinds of crimes, how to prevent nutcases like this gentleman who killed all those people. And if I did have the answers, I could run for emperor of the world, but I don't. The other side of it, however, is where I can be of some help, and that's in helping people understand how they can defend themselves against people like this. As it happens, evil exists in this world, and it takes an event like this, unfortunately, sometimes to remind us that evil does walk among us, and unfortunately, sometimes it finds us. My goal is to help people be able to deal with that evil when they're confronted with it, whether they choose to carry a firearm or not. And interestingly enough, it's that last part, not that got me into just a little bit of trouble this week. Interestingly enough, I ran across someone who had this notion that talking about defending yourself against someone with a gun, if one wasn't armed, was somehow irresponsible, or even worse, demeaning to the memories of those people who died in that club in Orlando. And I think that's exactly the wrong attitude to take. I think it's imperative that the rest of us help our fellow citizens, our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, even people we don't know. I think it's imperative upon us to help them understand how they can defend themselves against someone intent on doing them harm. I think we honor those people, in fact, by talking about these things, by talking about ways that we can prevail against someone who intends to kill us, even if we don't happen to be as equally armed as they are. It's a tough subject. It's tough to deal with, particularly if you know somebody who's been in those circumstances, or maybe somebody who got injured or killed in this kind of attack, because they do happen. But I think we would be doing all of ourselves a disservice if we didn't do something. Teaching our kids, for instance, how to deal with a school attacker. Those things do happen. I think that's important. And we know that the kids are not going to be carrying firearms. They're not going to be equally matched, but we can teach them to do things to tilt the odds in their favor. And the more people that get involved, in the case of a mass shooting like this, the more people that get involved, the better the chances of them prevailing over that armed, crazed person who has come into the building and wants to kill them. I think that's what we should be doing. Again, I would love to be able to prevent these crimes from ever happening, but I also know that they happen, and that my best use of my time is helping people deal with it when they do. And we'll be talking about this a little more with Rob Pincus in just a little bit, because he's been teaching unarmed responses to spree killers for some time now in his school attacker response course and in some of his other courses. So I want to get his perspective on this. He's dealt with this for many years, and so we'll talk about that here in just a bit. I do want to talk, before that happens, however, about the PDN newsletter. And if you've tuned in before, you've heard me talk about this, but if you haven't signed up yet, now's the time to do it. The PDN newsletter goes out to several 100,000 people every week. Lots of people have signed up for the free PDN newsletter to get timely information in their mailbox every week. And for instance, it will remind you that this show is on every week. It comes out on the day of the show to remind you, hey, the training talk show is tonight. And you get that in your email box too. And a lot of other great information. You can keep up on the latest articles and videos that are posted here at Personal Defense Network. And it's easy to sign up. In fact, I will show you how easy it is to sign up. What we're going to do here is I'm going to screen share this here in a little bit and let you see this. Here we go, and this is really easy. Okay, so here we go. This is the main screen. If you come on to PDN, Personal Defense Network, you've been here. If you're watching the show, you probably have, but you've probably seen this thing here, the 280,000 strong. It's actually more than that now. And sign me up. And that just signs you up for the free newsletter. It doesn't obligate you to anything. It just signs you up for the free newsletter. If you miss that one, you can always sign up with the Stay Connected box that's on the middle, usually the middle of the page, or the Stay Connected box that's on the bottom of every page. Very easy to sign up. Just put in your email and hit the sign up button, and that's all there is to it. And of course, it's easy to get off if you later decide you don't want to receive it anymore. We make it easy to get off too. So great information free in your email box every week with the Personal Defense Network newsletter. So please sign up for that if you haven't. A lot of great stuff in there. Interestingly enough, I spend a lot of time, and I'm of course a regular here at Personal Defense Network. I've been contributing for a long time, and boy, I can't keep up with all the new stuff that's here, and I actually rely on the newsletter to do that for me. So great resource, the free Personal Defense Network newsletter. Now, as we're waiting Rob is actually out on the Personal Defense Network training tour right now, and he's currently looking for a quiet place so he can join us. And I want to talk a little bit about the Personal Defense Network Spring Training Tour and take a look at some of the classes that are coming up, because a lot of great ones. Rob, of course, is teaching, so I'm going to pull this up here, and we'll show you the schedule here for the next. Here we go. We'll just start this and let you see this. There we go. And if you go to the Personal Defense Network website, go to training, and you can get the training tour dates and locations, and just click on that, and it comes up here. And this is it's now the 16th. There are some great courses coming up this weekend, but I really want to talk about what's coming up in the next week here. And we'll go to let's see here. Okay, so Rob Pincus is going to be in Leadville, Colorado, teaching fundamentals of combat-focused shooting, one-day advanced pistol handling, and combat-focused carbine. Those are great classes. And in Reno, Nevada, my buddy Derek Poole, great instructor, Derek, and he's going to be teaching combat-focused shooting and advanced pistol handling. Rob Pincus is he's got a lot of stuff going on in Colorado this year, teaching again combat-focused shooting. Chris Fry, and Chris Fry is a great instructor that I've not had the chance to work with now, but he has a phenomenal reputation. He's going to be doing pistol precision, speed, and decisions in West Hampton, New York. Mike Seeklander. Now, if you don't know who Mike Seeklander is a well-known shooter, well-known instructor. You may have seen him on The Best Defense on television, and he's going to be having his shooting performance class in Pelham, New Hampshire on the 25th and 26th. Back in Reno, again, my buddy Derek Poole will be back in Reno teaching combat-focused carbine on the 26th. Chris Fry will still be in West Hampton, New York, teaching practical pistol movement and cover skills on the 26th. And Rob Pincus, still in Colorado on the 26th, is going to be teaching a one-day combat-focused carbine. Now, for you instructors out there, here's one for you in, oh gosh, Slowhouse, California. That's a town in California I'm not familiar with, and I apologize if I just messed that up, because I probably have. But he's going to be teaching a defensive firearms coach certification course. Now, if you have a standard NRA pistol instructor's certification and you want to expand your range and get into actual real defensive handgunning instruction, the defensive firearms coach certification course is the first step in that. And that's going to be taught by my buddy Jamie Onion down in California. Rob Pincus is going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'll have to ask him. I don't know if he's been in Salt Lake City before, but he'll be teaching fundamentals of combat focused shooting on the 7th of July. And I really want to talk about this. If you happen to be going to Italy, okay, if you're going to Italy on the 8th and 9th of July, my buddy Alessandro Padovani, who grew up in Italy, is going to be teaching safer, faster knife fundamentals, ground defense, and multiple assailants. And that's a 2-day course in Italy. So if you're going there, there's your chance to take a great course while you're there. Ale is a great instructor, a good friend of mine, and one of the people that I respect greatly because of his teaching ability. Rob Pincus is going to be in Reno, Nevada, teaching two-person armed defense 2-day course. Now, this is a course I actually want to take because my wife is armed too. She's an instructor in her own right, and when we're out, we're generally both armed. And being able to take that 2-person armed defense 2-day course from Rob would be really great. Unfortunately, I'm not going to make it, but that's a great course to take. So that's what's coming up for the next couple of weeks. And the training tour, the Personal Defense Network Spring Training Tour. And like I said, Rob Pincus is out there right now. I think he's actually in Minnesota today teaching. So we're going to see if we can't get him on here in just a minute or two. And okay. Let's see here. I wanted to get to a couple of viewer emails while we're waiting for Rob. And one of the viewer emails that I got says, he talks about he and his wife are both a little older. He didn't say how old, but he said we're a little older. And his wife likes to shoot, and she's getting into the idea of carrying a defensive firearm. And he says that she has trouble loading her Glock magazines. He didn't mention which one. He just said Glock magazines. And she says she has trouble loading them. And apparently the spring is relatively stiff. And especially if somebody's got maybe some mobility issues or some arthritis issues or some strength issues, that can be a problem. He says, is there anything she can do to help load her magazines? Well, the Glock pistols come, at least they used to come with a loading tool that a lot of people throw away because it just doesn't really look like much. If she doesn't still have that loading tool, and I guess probably not because she's having trouble, there are options. One of the ones that I really like is called a Maglula, Maglula. And it's a neat little device that the magazine kind of sits into. And you press a little lever and it pushes the rounds down and you can put new rounds in. It's very fast, very easy to use. I haven't purchased one for many, many years. I think they're about $15 or $20. You can buy them all over. They come in several sizes for various magazines. And I found that even people with really severe arthritis problems have no problem loading magazines using the Maglula. So I was hoping I had one here. Nope, I do not. But the Maglula is a great option that she should probably consider. And if that works for her, I hope it does solve her magazine loading problems. And I understand that especially the Glocks can be really tough to load especially as they start to get full. So hope that helps out. And I had Rob here for just a minute and he disappeared on me while I was talking about the Maglula loader. So hopefully we'll get him back here.
I'm back.
You're back.
I am here, my friend.
Oh, good. All right, Rob, you are. Hey, you've got a nice view there out the skyline.
I do. I've got like a little skyline thing. I'm hanging out in one of my my corporate offices here in the Minneapolis. I think I'm kind of backlit though. I feel like. How about this? Is this better?
Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's better.
A little artwork. That's
good. Yeah, nice artwork there. Cool. Perfect. Great. So you're out on the training tour. You're in Minneapolis now?
I am. So PDN Headquarters all day today. We did some video work. We got a lot of new clips. We got some new premium stuff for the premium members. We talked a lot about the new gold membership. I don't know if you're talking about that tonight or if you have talked about it yet.
No, I haven't.
It's something probably we're going to talk about more in July. But if we launched the gold program kind of quietly and subtly in May, and we're already talking about what platinum is going to be like, but the gold program is great. It gives people that want to take advantage of our new distance education programs the opportunity to save a lot of money, to be able to get involved with a lot of different things. We've also got big discounts there. We've got some other premiums, some perks, things that the premium members aren't even getting, things like the entire broadcasts of the NRA seminars, which you've attended in the past. Those full seminars, instead of just some of the clips we put out, will be available to all of the gold members. So we had some great meetings today. It was also food truck day at PDN Headquarters. We had everybody out in the parking lot enjoying the food trucks, and this is good. It's a great time of year to be in Minneapolis. It's not in craziness that happens out here with their 10,000 lakes they've got in Minnesota during the deep summer. So we just finished up a bunch of training. Jeff Mullenmeister, who you know, down in Faribault, Rice County. We were down in Rice County at the SO there. They have some great training facilities. Barrett Kendrick from Bearco Training from Louisiana, who's used to humidity, was up, and we did reality-based training instructor development for some officers that are training officers around different agencies in this region interested in putting on scenario training to evaluate their fellow officers' ability to apply their skills in an emotionally charged environment. So really great training going on here in the Midwest. I'm getting ready to head out to Colorado. Baby Pincus turns 1 year old next week. So we're gonna have a little Baby Pincus 1 year old party on Tuesday. And then Wednesday starts a week of classes in Colorado. I saw that you were talking about the Colorado classes. I'm looking forward to that. I think most of them are full, but there's still some slots available in the Leadville classes. It was absolutely one of my favorite places to be, especially in July. And that's the highest elevation range, the highest elevation public range in the U.S. It's just over 10,000 feet.
Whoa, 10,000 feet?
Yep. When we were at Valhalla, we had some ranges we could use. We had some rifle. I'm actually moving over here to get on the charger here because my phone's about to die. But we had some ranges that we used that were closer to 11,000 feet, which during the era of a lot of our clients then were going over to Afghanistan, doing a lot of things over there. So it was great to be able to give them an opportunity to train at 11,000 feet, see especially what their precision rifles would do at length, with a lot of inclination, declination, shooting out at distance in some of the valleys and mountainsides out there. But that was a private range. So the highest elevation public range that I'm aware of in the U.S., and I've said this several times, no one's challenged it, is in Leadville, Colorado, at just over 10,000 feet.
Holy cow. Man, that's amazing. Okay, so what I want to talk about, and in fact, I want to talk a little later in the show about the new distance education program, which is what I was originally having you on to talk about. And then this thing in Orlando happened. And I've already talked about that a little bit tonight. And so what I want to do at first here is to spend some time talking about the lessons that we can learn from Orlando and about dealing with that kind of attack, that kind of spree killer or mass killer attack. Now, I assume, and we all know how to spell assume, but I assume that the people, at least most of the people watching this show, have already decided at some level to take responsibility for their own safety. And at the same time are looking at the news out of Orlando and asking themselves how they can possibly be prepared for that kind of attack. And so what would you say to the person who says, listen, I don't know where to start. Where do I start with dealing with something like this?
You know, I don't know that I think you're right. I think what we really need, I don't know that anybody watching this show needs to be there, but what I think is that we need to encourage everybody watching this show to share what I'm about to say with their friends and with their family and their coworkers, and especially people that haven't made the commitment to watch what's going on at Personal Defense Network, to go out and train, maybe even the commitment to own a firearm for defense. And I know that that's sacrilege with the PDN audience, but the reality is there's a lot of people out there that either don't or can't carry firearms for personal defense all the time. You know, people ask me all the time when I go to Chicago or when I go to Manhattan or I go to Europe, you know, well, gee, what does it feel like to not have a gun? Well, it feels like I'm living my life. It feels like I'm doing the things that I want to do. It feels like that I'm enjoying my life, and I'm seeing places and getting to be with people, getting to go to experiences, cultural experiences, dining experiences, museums. We live in a world where we can't carry a gun all the time. I recognize that many people do, but that's not the average. And if you care about people that are outside of that community, outside of that very small niche that always has a gun, and all you ever say, the cliche, right? It takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. If all you ever say is this kind of hyperbole, if all you ever say is about, you know, you need a firearm or you should carry a gun or gun-free zone, blah, 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 you're actually hurting some of the people you care about. You're actually disempowering. You're putting them in a position of thinking if they don't radically change their life, if they don't radically change their political views in some cases, if they don't overcome some emotional issues that they might have around firearms, which we can deal with in the long term. In the short term, if they aren't willing to overcome those things, they can't overcome those things, you're actually telling them that they're helpless, that their situation is hopeless, and that in the heat of the moment, there's absolutely nothing that they can do to protect themselves because they aren't comfortable with firearms. And there's a whole bunch of people that when they do the math, when they look at it and they say, you know what, I've never really liked guns. I've never been comfortable with guns. Why change my life? This is such a low potential situation. It's such a low probability. Now we say, but you never know. It could happen to you. And I agree, right? Evil exists. We could be visited by evil, and so could your friends. But if they're not already thinking the way we do, then you can't expect them to go from 0 to 100 and just decide now because a bunch of people, dozens of people were killed while they were just out having a good time on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, late Saturday night. You can't think about their lives. So you take away any power that they might have when you say it's all about the gun. So it's not all about the gun. We know that. There's empirical evidence. There's observable facts that it's not all about the gun. Many people have fought back against armed spree killers, armed violent attackers. And this isn't just in the spree killer world, in the mass shooting world, in the quote unquote active shooter world. Armed violence is stopped by determined and willful unarmed people every day in America, every day all over the world. So if we remember that, and if we lose the politics and we lose the rhetoric and we lose the hyperbole, and we tell people, look, if this happens, first of all, accept that it could happen to you. And if it happens to you, and you can evade, you can get away, get away. You don't have flashy red and blue lights. You don't have the badge. You don't have the uniform. It's not your job to stay there and fight. If you can get away, get away. People are going to want to hear that. They want to be given permission that, yes, you can get away. If you can jump out of that second story window and twist an ankle, bust your knee, dislocate your hip, maybe break a leg, but don't sit there and be a victim if you can get away. But if you can't get away, barricade. Barricade in place. So evade or barricade. Make it harder for the bad guy to get to you, right? If you can't be where the bad guy is, if you can't not be where the bad guy is, if you're stuck there, barricade. And we know that people, we've heard all the reports now, right? People were doing that in the Pulse nightclub in Florida. They were barricading in the bathrooms, barricading in other areas. We know that this happened in Paris, at the attacks in Paris, that people barricaded themselves in a place, made it harder for the bad guy to get to them. And that delay for many, many people, I was listening to a report on Anderson Cooper, CNN. I was listening to a report, I think it was yesterday, driving into Minneapolis here from the class down in Faribault. And he was interviewing the SWAT commander down in Orlando. Now, I've had the privilege of and honor of teaching at SWAT Roundup for many, many years, just outside of Orlando in Orange County, Florida. And I know a lot of those Orlando SWAT cops have been students in our classes. I know some of them personally. We have some instructors down there that have gone through the combat focus shooting program. And, I checked in with them as quick as I could on Sunday and made sure all our guys, everybody I knew was okay. amazingly heroic things. And what's just coming out now is people are saying, well, it took 3 hours for them to take action. It did not. It absolutely did not take them 3 hours to take action. And those people who were barricaded, many of them were extricated. Many of them were rescued by the SWAT guys in parts of that club, which was a very convoluted building with lots of different rooms. Many of them were rescued and sort of moved out of the areas they had secured. Once they believed it was the police on the other side, they removed the barricades. The police came in and got them out during that 3-hour standoff or 2+ hour standoff before the final confrontation after the explosive breaching entry that was made by the SWAT team. So barricading yourself buys you time for the people that are the experts, the people that are the saviors, the people that are the sheepdogs with the flashy red and blue lights and the badges and the guns and the armor to come in and get you, the bad guy, and then tell you, hey, everything's cool out here, come on out. But ultimately, if you can't do that, if you can't get away, keep the bad guy away from you until the good guys get there, then you've got to be the good guy. You've got to, as Tony Blauer in the Personal Defense Readiness Program would say, you've got to be your own bodyguard. You've got to be ready to defend yourself with whatever you can. And people have asked me all week, well, it's a club, you can't carry the gun, it's gun-free zone, and blah, blah, blah. Bottles are heavy impact devices, right? It's glass, break the glass, you have a sharp edge. The chairs, the mops, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. The employees have been cleaning things up all night. They know where the mops are. They know where they've been cleaning stuff, and they're getting ready to kick everybody out anyway at 2 o'clock in the morning at close and clean the whole place up. So chemicals, right? The soap, barricade yourself, get back in the corner, get around the corner from that bathroom, from that room, that storage room, the manager's office, wherever you are. And if the floor is already a hard floor, a tile floor, a linoleum floor, throw that soap out there. When the bad guy comes breaking through that door that you've barricaded and he's charging towards you and he hits a slippery surface, maybe that's the distraction. Maybe that's the moment you need as he hits that slippery surface. Even if he doesn't fall and he loses his footing and he freezes and he looks down, you charge around the corner with 3 of your friends and a mop and a bottle and a sharp glass that you broke on the edge of the linoleum or the edge of the tile or the edge of the commode. Now you've got a sharp edge, you've got a blunt trauma force, you've got the mop, you've got the guy on the ground. And guess what? That rifle he has, it's 22 caliber, it's .223. It's less than 1/4 of an inch diameter. It's a laser shot, less than 1/4 of an inch diameter wide. That's the area that you can get killed or hurt in. And if you can point that muzzle, if you can trap that gun against the ground, trap the gun against the wall, trap the gun against anything, and make sure nobody's in that 1/4 inch laser dot to the next hard surface, to the wall, to the bathroom floor, maybe even to the ceiling, let him shoot his ammo out. Is it going to be loud? Yes. Is it going to be traumatic? Yes. Is it going to be scary? Absolutely. Do you need some adrenaline? You'll have it. Yes, you'll have whatever strength you can muster. Do what you can do to make that gun, that's just a tool, not an important thing. When the gun runs out of ammo, when the gun needs to be reloaded, when the gun malfunctions, when the gun's pointed in a direction with that 1/4 inch laser diameter, not pointed at you or anyone else, let it become irrelevant. And then you just got a human being, and give me 2 human beings that are determined, they can take on 1. Give me 3, give me 4, give me 5, give me 100 in that club, give me 12 that are hiding in a bathroom. I'll take them with a mindset and a will to fight over carrying around my XDS 9mm with 7 shots, 25 feet away from a determined and trained killer. I'd much rather have the friends in the confined space ready to ambush this guy and give him something he's not expecting when he comes around the corner.
I think one of the points I talked about a little earlier, I got some feedback from someone who felt that suggesting that the patrons at this club could have mounted a counterattack against the killer armed with a rifle and a pistol was somehow disrespectful to their memories. And I think it's important to point out here is that this isn't a matter of bravery or a matter of some sort of personal code of honor. This is simply a matter of understanding that you can fight back and understanding the limitations of the weaponry the guy's carrying. It has nothing to do with a lack of bravery or some personal failing.
Now, we've got a 17-minute video that we posted called Demystifying the Gun. This was a video that we posted as part of our free attacker response course. It's part of the active shooter response course that we're teaching through Endeavor that Aaron Giannetti and Ryan Hoover, Robert McKeeman, this program, John Grabo, a lot of these great teachers at my gym back in Ohio have really spearheaded. About 6-8 months ago, they started getting a lot of attention for what they're doing with active shooter response. And we're running the first active shooter response instructor development course in September. We announced it about 60 days ago. We know it's going to be the first one, so we didn't put a whole bunch of fanfare behind it. But obviously this week, a lot of people are asking, a lot of people are talking about it, very much like what happened after Sandy Hook when we launched the school attacker response course, the SARC course. Now's the time. People want the information. We've got it. These guys have been doing a great job with this course. It involves an armed response as well as an unarmed response, which is different from the school attacker course. And the idea of demystifying the gun. So that 17-minute video, and if anybody saw the Blaze show that we did on For the Record called Fighting Back, it was released back in March. If anybody saw that show, Aaron Giannetti did a great job of talking about how the gun is just a tool. It's just a mechanical object. I always compare it to a stapler. You know, you got to put the staples in it. Eventually it's going to run out. It can jam. If you don't put the stapler in the right place, the staple doesn't end up in the right place. If the gun's not pointed in the right place, the hurt. And if good people can change the direction that gun's pointed in or make it impossible for the gun to work properly, then the gun gets taken out of the equation really fast. Demystifying the gun. Just like I would tell anybody, there's not a firearms instructor in the world that I know that wouldn't tell someone, a personal defense, defensive shooting instructor that wouldn't tell someone, hey, just because you have a gun, it doesn't mean you're safe. Just because you have a gun, it doesn't mean that you can't be hurt. Well, the corollary then is obvious, right? Just because someone has a gun doesn't mean they can hurt you. Just because someone has a gun doesn't mean they're indefeatable. And I don't understand how the firearms community misses this point. We're so fast to remind everybody, hey, you need to train, you need to practice, you need to make sure you have a well-maintained gun, you need to know how to fix it, you need to keep it loaded, practice your reloads, practice your malfunction drills. You never know what's going to happen, Murphy's Law, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yet we act like because a bad guy has a gun, we need a SWAT team to stop him? No. And as for the Monday morning quarterbacking part, you know, the book that I wrote with Mark Walters, Lessons from Unarmed America, we got a lot of criticism inside the community, a lot of quiet back channel criticism, including from some of the people who volunteered to have their stories shared in that book. How dare you question what these people did? How dare you judge what these people did? How dare you criticize them? No, we weren't questioning, we weren't criticizing, we weren't judging. What we were doing was learning. We were learning from their experiences, right? You can learn the hard way, or you can read a book that lets you learn from other people's experiences, right? And standing, you know, all this stuff, standing on the shoulders of giants, learn from others' experiences. Every wise philosopher, educator, leader in the history of the Western world has suggested this as a probably pretty good idea. And when we do it in the moment, there's emotion. When we do it, what are we, 5 days? When we do it 4 or 5 days after the killings, there's a lot of emotion tied to it. And I understand that. And I'm not judging, and I'm not questioning, and I'm not criticizing. And quite frankly, I think we're going to find out that maybe some people really did try to fight, and they just hadn't prepared. They were improvising. Maybe they tried to fight, but they didn't know how. Maybe they hadn't thought ahead of time about using the bottle. Maybe they charged at the guy and they ran by 4 pieces of glass or 3 heavy objects or 2 chairs that if they'd have thought about it ahead of time, they could have picked up. Maybe every fire extinguisher in that building, which we know they're there, if every fire extinguisher in that building is still hanging on a bracket or sitting inside of a box, because nobody had been told, nobody thought that you could use that as not only a distractive device, potentially causing choking, causing disorientation, blinding the guy by getting that dry chemical fire extinguisher substance in his eyes. If nobody ever thought about that, and then just using the fire extinguisher obviously as a blunt object to smash the guy after he's disoriented, is sitting on a hanger, that's our fault. That's the fault of everybody who said it takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. Because you never took 30 extra seconds to say, but you know what? Gun will help, absolutely. Gun would have been great. But if you don't have a gun, try this. Because what a lot of people seem to be missing when they talk about gun-free zones and what if people were carrying and all this, is they miss the fact that there was an armed police officer there doing security work who did engage the subject. And that gun didn't miraculously stop the bad guy. The will to fight would have stopped the bad guy.
I think, you know, we talk a lot about the will to fight, and I think there's a part of that, and something I think is missing from a lot of our society. And I hate to get so philosophical, but you have to give yourself permission to fight. And I think that's really important, because we don't have a lot of situations in our lives today, most of us at least, don't have those situations where we give ourselves permission to do that kind of thing, do we?
No, not only that, I hear people say, you know, I don't know if I could use force. I don't know if I could use violence. I don't know if I could hurt someone else. I never hear people say that when it comes to defending others, when it comes to defending people they care about. You know, moms, you know, saying that, but when it comes to their kids, they'll say, well, I don't, my body is this and it's that, and it's temporary, and I don't know if I could hurt someone. I don't know if I have that in me. But you threaten their kids, and this is cliche, but this is one of those cliches that's cliche for a reason. You threaten their kids, and yes, they get it. They would use force. And what I tell those women is, if you get killed, if you get emotionally and psychologically traumatized to the point where you can't function as a regular member of society, you're not there to help those kids anymore. You're not there to raise them properly. You're not there to be the guide, be the support, be the friend, be the parent that they need. So if you're talking about you would defend your kids if they were being threatened, if you're worthy as a parent and you're being threatened, your kids are being threatened. Yeah. If you are valuable to them as a leader, as a parent, as a support, as a guide, as a protector, as a mentor, if you feel value there, protect yourself, because it's the same as somebody attacking your kids. Because how many people do we know who've lost parents at a young age, who have been disturbed by it, who've been affected by it, who've grown up differently? Maybe, yeah, it doesn't mean that people can't be awesome, but we know that there are people who haven't been very successful and haven't been awesome because they lost a parent to trauma. And it could be a car accident, or it could be violent crime. And if you can, the car accident, you know, but wear your seatbelt, right? Like, don't drink and drive. I get it. The personal violence, there's things you can do there too. And a lot of people don't get that. They miss it.
You know, I think that a lot of times, and you sort of alluded to it a little earlier, is that we, especially in the defensive training world, and especially in the defensive shooting world, we tend to focus a lot on hardware, because, I mean, hardware is cool, right? We all like, you know, we all like this stuff. But I think that and a lot of what you said was that sometimes we get so fixated on it, and it brings up something to mind. In the wake of, in fact, in the wake of Orlando, but even in the wake of Sandy Hook and some of these other incidents, we hear a lot of people who are talking about, oh my gosh, I need to have a terrorist interdiction kit in the trunk of my car. So I need, you know, a rifle with 15 magazines, and I need, you know, a plate carrier with armor, and I need a ballistic helmet. And somebody was suggesting that they need polarized bullet-resistant sunglasses. And this is sort of the hardware response to this. So, you know, tell me about that. What do you think about the idea of putting together a terrorist interdiction kit and keeping it in the trunk of your car?
You know, it's interesting. I got a text message, or a Facebook private message earlier, and it was from someone who, they sent me a message, and they said, if you owned a gay bar, this is literally what the Facebook message was. If you owned a gay bar, I have a lot of people ask me these questions. I hope you don't mind. I know you're busy, blah, blah, blah. If you owned a gay bar right now, aspects of training and equipment would you be focusing on? And I responded, good rocks classes, quality corkscrews, and customer service. Because if you own a gay bar right now in America, and you're suddenly trying to like train a mini SWAT team, quick response force, counter-terrorist unit, I think you're missing the point. Now, if you're going to have a meeting and say, hey guys, let's remember, you know, here's where the door stops are, here's where the locks are, here's where we get people out, here's how we evacuate people quickly, here's where our trauma kit is, here's where we keep tourniquets and gauze, and by the way, I have an EMT guy coming in next week to teach us how to use this stuff better, because we should all be prepared for that anyway. Earthquake, or armed burglary, or a spree killer, or terrorism, or whatever it is, we should all be preparing for this stuff anyway. And if this is the event that causes people in bars and clubs around the US to do this training for their employees and for their staff, and maybe put up signs that will help their patrons, good. That's the good that comes from this, right? That's where terrorism doesn't win. That's where this homophobic killer, this deviant wacko doesn't win. Is that what this does is it empowers people. It doesn't make them scared. It doesn't make them paranoid. It doesn't make people not go to gay bars. It doesn't make gay people stay in their house. It doesn't make people not go to clubs or never drink or not go anywhere they can't carry a gun. What it makes people do is be prepared for anything. Because hopefully we never see another terrorist event. Not going to happen, but buildings are going to collapse. There's going to be an earthquake. There's going to be a tsunami. There's going to be a fire, and there's going to be reasons to evacuate. There's going to be reasons to use trauma medical techniques, use blood stopping medical techniques, use things like tourniquets and hemostatic agents, and maybe chest seals because of puncture wounds after a tornado sends a piece of a 2x4 through somebody's chest. There's reasons to have this information. And if this is what motivates people to get it, good. If this is what motivates somebody to training skills and stage a firearm in a quick access lockbox inside of the manager's office and train 5 employees how to use it, good. Because they're now more prepared. They're now more ready than they were a week ago. And that's how terrorism loses.
So I guess I don't need that plate carrier with the armor. Then is what you're saying.
You know what? If you work in a club, well, it depends. Do they serve food? Because if they serve food, you need a plate carrier. You need a.
Oh yeah, there you go.
A friendly male or female with a tray and a bunch of plates. That's the kind of plate carrier you need in a restaurant. You did it. It was you. You just set me up. Yes, it was you that posted the plate carrier, the article about how you set up your plate carrier. I want to set my personal preference is a little on the taller side, little on the thinner side, fit with a short skirt that's what I want my plate carrier to be.
Yeah, I seem to remember your wife responding to that in a, let's just say you're going to be in trouble when you get home. I
almost posted a picture of her. I got this great picture from Thanksgiving of her, but it wasn't a plate. Technically, it was a casserole. And she was carrying, I forget what it was, but she was carrying I think it was like the carved turkey meat that she was coming over to the table. I said, that's the best plate carrier I've seen in a while. This idea that somebody's going to go to a personal defense shooting class with magazine plate carrier or vest. For people who don't know what we're talking about somebody that has a load bearing vest that holds the armor plate. And if somebody has one of those in their car, like, I don't think that's horrible, right? I've got the tour truck. The tour truck has all kinds of equipment in there that if someone's driving around a minivan with a bunch of kids that they take back and forth to school, it's probably, they don't have room for all the equipment I have in the tour truck. But I have that for training purposes. I have it for educational purposes. Is some of it staged so that in this like 0.0000000000001% chance that I'm driving by a terrorist incident, a spree killer incident, or could I grab the stuff? Do I know where it is? Is the armor vest that I have in there staged in a place that makes sense that I can access it? Yes. I did the video the other day driving up from Iowa, and some people noticed that there was an AR stock right over my shoulder. We had just left the range. We had just done a bunch of live fire, and some of the cases for the rifles were underneath some of the luggage and everything else. So Barrett and I had a rifle in the car. We didn't have a rifle in the car because Orlando had just had a terrorist event when we drove up on Sunday afternoon. We had rifles in the car because if we got a bunch of rifles in the car, and guess what? We had some loaded magazines. We had loaded magazines with defensive ammunition, because if the rifle's right there, why would you not have it ready, right? In my position, how ridiculous is it that I would not have a firearm on my person if I'm out and I'm in a place where I can legally carry a gun, and I have the permits and I have the training and I have the mindset, and I'm not drinking and I'm not going into gun-free zones? Why would I not? Reckless not to. And according to a lot of people, it would absolutely be reckless for me not to have the gun. Same thing, if I've got the rifle in the car, why not have the magazine loaded and have it at the ready? But when I get out of the car, I've got to secure it. I don't want to leave the rifle in the front seat. I don't want to leave the loaded gun in a bag in the back seat where the kids can get to it. I don't want to be in a situation where I now have my terrorist interdiction kit, and my terrorist interdiction kit involves things that make me a felon when I drive to certain places or go to certain places, and I carry that backpack full of stuff where I legally can't own it. That doesn't make sense.
So I wanted to take a few minutes, since we've been talking about the response to spree kill and that kind of thing, and we've been talking about the idea of education. And I want to segue into and talk for a little bit about some of the ways in which the defensive training world, the defensive education world, is evolving. And one of those is the new PDN Academy, the online training, which is just now getting started. So, if start us from the beginning about this, and tell us about the PDN Academy and what it's about and what it's going to do.
All right, before I do that, right now I'm going to unplug here for a second. Can I just get a little bit America with you? Because,
yeah, sure.
Like the view here is really, I mean, this is the heartland. This is Minnesota. This is Minneapolis. And as the sun goes down, this little river action over there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. So while that's what I'm looking at, let me talk to everybody about distance education. Years ago, and I'll try to make eye contact and not be distracted by the awesome America out here. But several years ago, did a little bit of a proof of concept experiment with USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association. Really good people over there. They're very passionate about what they do. I've written for their magazines. I've worked with them, taught with them. I've done a lot of cool things with them over the years. And Tim Schmidt has put together a hell of a team. And one of the things that they do really well, obviously, is they communicate constantly with their membership, and they promote valuable services and valuable items and products to their community very, very well. So I was doing a series of lectures, as you know, in 2011, 2012, I was doing a series of lectures called the CounterAmbush seminars. And the CounterAmbush seminars were about 6 to 8 hours long. And it involved 5 major blocks of instruction with question and answer tied in at the end of the day. I was doing a lot of them as broadcast classes through Gander Mountain Academy. So the Gander Mountain's also headquartered here. In fact, I think you can see their offices kind of over, well, they're over there somewhere. So the Gander Mountain is headquartered here in Minneapolis. And Gander Mountain Academy wanted to do something that really took advantage of the fact that they have this network of schools, network of facilities around the country. So they're in 5 different states, a couple different time zones. And these 6 facilities are tied together. So we can be in one classroom. I would always use one down by my home base in Florida, near St. Augustine, the one at the Lake Mary store. So I'd be at the Lake Mary Gander Mountain store back in the academy area in the classroom, broadcasting across the country. And we were able to fill all 6 classrooms with students who had the experience of obviously sitting there with me. So they're watching a giant screen and they're interactive with me. I can see them on a smaller screen in their video and audio both ways. And they would go through lectures with me. And at the end of each lecture session, they would then go with the local instructors who were certified by me to teach the physical skills. They would go with those instructors out to the range, and we go back and forth. So I do an hour, and they do an hour on the range. And then we do a lecture or a question and answer, then they go to the range. And then we do a lunch break, and we do a couple more back and forth. And it was great. And it was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of cool things. And because, Personal Defense Network is headquartered here, Gander Mountain's headquartered here, USCCA isn't far away. They're over in Wisconsin. They're in western Wisconsin near the border in Eau Claire. And they had a lot of their people that were working for the company at the time were based here in Minneapolis. So we decided, hey, you know what, let's try this. Let's take the lectures. And I was due for a book. For a while, I was writing a book every other year. And a couple of times I've written a book every year. And I might even do 2 this year. But for a while, I was doing a book every other year. And I was due for one. And the CounterAmbush book is what came out of that. And it was really comprised of most of those lectures and a lot of the instructor development course material from, let's say, up to the 2010 or 11 era from the combat focus shooting instructor development course. So a lot of the stuff that we were teaching firearms instructors about the way the brain works and the natural reactions and creating stimulus response patterns and why the physics and the physiology are so important and how the anatomy plays a role and the physics of the gun and the physics of the body tied in. That's the anatomy and the physiology. Why all that stuff was so important to what we're going to teach on the range, right? It's one thing to just take your gun and say, here, do it like me and shoot and show somebody how to stand. But when you have a critical thinking student, when you have someone who isn't just in the military or in the law enforcement world or someone who's just a sycophant, somebody who's just a fanboy who's going to do anything you say, when you have a critical thinking student who's going to say, challenge and material. I say, why do you want me to stand like that? I've seen videos of other people shooting a different way, or my dad taught me to shoot a different way. Why would I do it like this? Well, when you're a 19-year-old kid at Marine Corps basic training or Army basic training, you just do what the drill sergeant says. shut up and do it. But in the private sector, when you have a 45-year-old man who's taking responsibility for protecting his family, and he's paying you, $500, and he's bought $500 worth of ammo, and he has $1,000, $1,500 worth of equipment, he's taking 2 days off of work, and he's standing on the range, he's going to ask you why. Especially if he's got an IQ over 93, he's going to ask you why, and he's going to want a good answer. So the CounterAmbush material is that answer to a lot of those why questions. It's the physics, the physiology, the neuroscience, the empirical evidence from actual fights, and the empirical evidence from training environments, sports science, sports medicine, kinesiology. How do people learn? How do people move? How do we create these stimulus response patterns, decision-making patterns, recognition patterns? How do we help people for performing these complex motor skills and making decisions quickly under unexpected and extreme stress? When that's the question, then the answer is in that CounterAmbush book. When it's not just how do I shoot a tighter group, or how do I swing between the plates on a rack. So the CounterAmbush information was the first time that we did distance education, because it was concept. It was all ideas. It was principles and philosophy and science and observation and data. And we could teach that over video. We could teach that through a book. And so USCCA and I got together, and we put an online test together so we could hold people accountable. And we did the book and the DVD series and a workbook and the audio, and we shipped out the box. And it was kind of like, we remember we used to see the thing that was like, learn how to be a gunsmith, learn how to be an electrician, learn how to install floors, learn how to be a gardener, learn quilting, whatever it was, like all the distance education schools that you used to see on, back when there were the 3 main channels, but then there was other weird double-digit channels that would run, and, we could learn to be a gunsmith. And you'd get books, and you'd get, eventually VHS tapes, right, back in the day. So that's what we did. We sent out DVDs, we sent out audio CDs, we sent out books and a workbook. And then once you were done, we used modern technology to allow you to take a test, and you'd log in over at the USCCA site. And we had an amazing response to that. That was launched in 2012, and we had thousands of people take advantage of the opportunity to learn something without leaving their home, on their own time, not having to spend 10 hours sitting in a classroom, not having to get themselves to one of the Gander Mountain academies, but really learn this stuff. And then honestly, we were never giving a test when people were sitting in front of me, because I knew they were paying attention, right? And I could engage them. But when somebody's doing it on their own, we had to do the test. We had to make sure that people were actually accountable for the information, that people did learn, did gather information. If somebody didn't want to take the test, that's fine. But lots of people did. About 85% of the kits sold resulted in somebody trying to take the test, and about 90% of the people passed the test. So I knew in 2013 that distance education was a thing. Now, I've taken distance education courses. I took a course, some of the courses from the psychology department at ASU in the late 2008, 2009 was when I first did a distance education course. Through American University, I did several distance education courses. So I'm a big fan of distance education. Yale does it. Harvard does it. I think we can pull it off at PDN. So it took us a couple years to get the platform built up. Once we got the platform built up, we were able to take a situation where people were very excited about learning and give them the opportunity, the class, get the information verified, and really learn valuable life-saving skills, or the training models that they would need to develop those life-saving skills and life-protecting skills without having to go to a class, without having to wait for the timing. And we, PDN, everybody up here in Minneapolis got very excited about it, as did I. And we spent the last year, as you know, year and a half now, building that system. And we just launched it about 60 days ago, and it's been amazing. The response has been great. We've not done a lot of promotion on it. This is the first time we're talking about it. I've only talked about it a couple of times in social media, because we wanted to really reach the people that were paying the most attention to PDN, reach the people that were the most kind of voracious consumers of our content. We knew that they were invested. We knew they had studied, so to speak, and chance for success. And they'd also be our biggest critics. We knew that those people who were fans of the work and really valued it, they would be the ones that would tell us what we were doing wrong. And we got some great feedback from them, and we're getting ready to launch a few more courses. We've got 3 courses out now. We're getting ready to launch more courses. You've done a course on integrating to bullpup rifles. We've got some instructor development information that you've been involved in. Caleb Causey, one of our PDN Tour instructors, has done a medical class. What else do we have? We've got some things at a fundamental level too. So some of those are more advanced things. The CounterAmbush lectures, the updated version of the CounterAmbush distance education course is on there now. There's certainly some advanced coursework, some deep thinking coursework, but we've also got some fundamental stuff. We've got some courses we're about to launch that probably are going to be really popular in the next few months on developing fundamental defensive shooting skills. How do you train when you go to the range, and why do you train that way? And another one on choosing a defensive handgun. How many people this week are, for the first time in their lives, thinking about buying a handgun for defense? And if they walk into the gun store and well-educated, well-trained retail assistant, someone standing behind the counter or in the range at some of the more, on the floor of the retail store at some of the more sophisticated, more advanced new format stores. I call it new format store when the clerk is actually out on the floor, right? Like when you go to a high-end clothing store, when you go to Apple store, when you go to Blockbuster, there isn't just a clerk standing behind a counter, right? And if you go to a modern gun store, a contemporary gun store, there isn't a clerk just standing behind a glass case with a bunch of guns in front of him. There are retail experts. There are people out there helping you with your experience, greeting you at the door, saying, hey, how can I help you? And chances are some of those people are educated and some of them aren't, whether they're behind the counter or in front of the counter. And you may need some extra information. It's not, if you don't know anything about guns and you walk into a gun shop and you say, hey, I want a gun, and even if you tell them it's for defense, you might get sold something that's not really a perfect choice. So the educational course on choosing a defensive handgun, we're going to do a lot of promotion over that because there's a lot of people out there that need that. And we're not going to be promoting that to the, lifetime member of the NRA that's already a gold member at PDN. We're going to promote that outside of gun world. We're going to promote it to middle ground America. We're going to promote it to people that are on the fence about firearms. We're going to promote it to people who say, well, I could see taking an unarmed defense class, but I don't know if I really ever want a gun. And then something like what happens in Florida happens, and the news media talks about it for a week, and you change your mind and you say, you know what, I'm going to think about that gun. And that's where something like a 3-hour course that you can take online on choosing a defensive handgun and print out a bunch of supplemental materials and have a little buyer's guide that you take with you to the store, that's incredibly valuable. So that's one of the things that we were working on today. We worked on a couple weeks ago when I was here at the office, and that's all already out there. Some of that material and some of it's coming soon, but really excited about it.
That's cool, because this is something that I've been waiting to see launched, and of course there's a lot of people in the shooting world. We're kind of behind the times in the defensive training world and in the shooting world, and there are a lot of people, of course, who said, oh gosh, this will never work, it will never happen. And yet I think the experience has been that this stuff does. You can't teach this stuff. So we're about out of time, and so I want to thank you for coming on tonight and talking about Orlando and about response to spree killers and about the new distance education.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on it. One of the things, you've done a great job with this show, Grant. Let me just, in front of everybody, tell you what I hope you know, and what we talked about a lot, we've talked about a lot amongst the staff at PDN is that you have taken Training Talk and done exactly what I hoped would happen with it. It's an organically growing show. You do a great job of letting people who are already fans of PDN know what's happening. And in the aftermath of the show, you give us a resource that not only me, when I say us, I mean every fan of PDN, everyone who's using Personal Defense Network as a resource. You give them the show that they can then share. Telling someone, hey, you should see the latest newsletter, you should see the latest upload, you should check out this topic. They can share the video that you're doing every other week or twice a month and say, hey, check this out. And you're conveying information in a way that we've never done before. And I've been running around. I do my monthly PDN live event. Next week we're going to do one on active shooters. We're going to do one, we're taking questions now. We're taking questions on active shooter response, and kind of same thing we talked about, what can you do, what should you do, whether you have a gun or not. And we're going to talk a lot more about the armed response, obviously, on the PDN live event next week. But you've done a great job with the show, and I really haven't been all that involved in it. You told me what you wanted to do with it, and you've done a great job with it. But I think this week, with all the things we have going on at PDN and the tour and the distance education, and obviously the things going on in this country, I appreciate you yielding some time and letting me come on tonight.
Hey, well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate it very much, taking time out of your schedule and especially out of dinner to do this. So everybody, very, very quickly, we've got just about 45 seconds left. Next show is July 7th. Which is about 2 weeks from now. So the first Thursday of the month. Be sure and check us out then, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. My special guest on that show will be Joshua Gideon, one of our newest contributors here at PDN, and we're going to be discussing his article on training people with disabilities. So if you know someone who's maybe got a disability or maybe has some infirmity or maybe is aging a little bit, that's going to be a discussion you won't want to miss. Of course, you can always reach me, Grant at grantcunningham.com. Send me your suggestions, your questions, your comments. Always happy to hear them. And of course, check out all the great articles here at PDN, all the great videos and all that. And don't forget the free. So thanks again, everybody. We will see you on July 7th, the first Thursday of July at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern with another edition of Training Talk. Good night.